Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 52 of the Ask Abhijit show. As you know, today, wherever you are, uh, today is a live video chat episode, which means I'm going to be taking live video chat questions from all of you. The link for joining the video chat is on top of the chat box. Unfortunately, only 10 people can join at a time, and right now I can see that the room is full. So, okay. So keep trying, those of you who want to join. And the rules are very simple. There are three very broad topics: history, geopolitics, and science. And I am going to be taking one question per person. So last week also I had said one question per person, but then I took many questions per person. So this time I want more people to get the chance to be on the show. So I'm going to take only one question per person. All right. So that's the very simple basic rules. So let me first see who all is there with us. Sharda Pandey, Dungar Singh Chauhan, Mohit Manjrekar, Hiram Aaron, Aditi Sen Gupta Pal, Shah Chandrabhan Maurya, I am sorry Babu, Goodwill, Yash More, Christopher Anthony, aka Satya Teja, Devi Gurav, Anand Dutt, Nishant Diman, Kavita Rana, Harsh Jain, Itachi Uchiba, Paramesh, Rohan Kumar, Atharva Param, Anthony Mac, Samarth Boite, Parvez, AR, Prem Tripathi, Chaitanya, Angad, Kingster, Kashyap, Sujal, Sampriti, Abhijit Iyengar, Preeti Pandey, Arga Sarkar, Shibani, Harshada, Varun Raj, Akash Rathore, and lots and lots and lots of people. So nice to see you all. Always a great honor that you all join my live broadcasts. Always very grateful to all of you. Good evening and good day to all of you, wherever you are. All right, let's get into the questions. And I can see there are a number of people waiting to join the broadcast. So let us start with Pranav Patil. Hello, Pranav. How are you doing?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
I'm very well. Where are you from?
I'm from Bangalore, sir, Karnataka.
Very nice. So nice to see you. So what's your question?
Sir, my question is that can you suggest books about the Islamic invasion of India? Since there's a lot, you tell a lot about it, but we want to know the sources.
See, I haven't read one book or two books or something. I've been reading books since I was before I was 10 years old. So unfortunately, the problem is that when it comes to the Islamic or Turkic invasions of India, very few people have written a proper book. I mean, you will unfortunately not find a single book that deals with this specific topic. So what I have done is I have read lots of books, hundreds of books. I've read thousands of research papers and articles and all that, magazine articles and research articles and all. So that's how I have got my information, my knowledge. I wish I could suggest one book or three books to you, but it's not going to be possible because there is no such thing. So if you want to learn about this, you're going to have to do your due diligence. You're going to have to trawl the internet for articles. You're going to have to read books. I mean, I can't think of a single book that deals with this topic. You see, that's the unfortunate thing. I really appreciate that you are interested in this particular portion of our history. It is a very important phase, one that has been completely neglected by historians, deliberately, of course. So I apologize that I am unable to give you a single book or two books. What I would suggest is that you're very young. I really like that. So you know what? You've got an entire lifetime ahead of you. So whenever you get some free time, do some research, do some original research of your own, do some reading. The internet today contains all the sources of information and knowledge that we can hope for, and most of it is, if you know where to look, it's available for free. So spend some time, research things, read as much as you can, and I think you will get more information from the internet than actually from various textbooks. So that's what I can say, sir. Thank you very much for your question. Very nice seeing you. Huh? Very nice seeing you.
So,
All right.
thank you, sir.
Most welcome. All the best. Bye bye. Okay. Who else shall we take? Let us take Okay. Ruchit Gyani. Hi, Ruchit. Good evening. Good day.
Hello, sir. Good evening. Sir, my
Yes.
question
Where
to
are you?
you is, can you please
Yeah.
elaborate on Kalidas?
On whom?
Kalidas, the great
Okay.
Sanskrit
Kalidas.
dramatist.
Yes, one of the greatest dramatists of all time of in human history. So Kalidas has written. I mean, we don't quite know when Kalidas lived, because, as you know, all our sources of information have disappeared. They've been wiped out. Uh, he, I believe, he wrote his plays in classical Sanskrit. What are the names of the plays? Was it Dushyanta? No, I think there is one called Bhas and there is one called Kalidas. So there are two of these. Uh, so I can't give you the exact names of the plays and all, but he's one of the greatest dramatists and writers of classical Sanskrit. Very interesting plays that he has written that have been part of our lore for a very long time. So if you know what, as right now I cannot think of the exact names of those plays and all that off the top of my head, but you have suggested a very interesting topic. Actually, Kalidas is a very important part of our literary history. So what I can do is, in the future I'll make a video about Kalidas and the plays that he wrote and his impact on our cultural history, our literary history, and possibly in the history in the literary scene worldwide. Actually, so that's what I can do in the future. Right now, I can't think of the specific details about Kalidas, so that's what I can say right now. Right?
Sir, my great grandfather, he wrote a
Yes.
book on the timeline of Kalidas, the
Okay.
date of Kalidas, by Shivdatta
All right.
Gyani. It would be great if you
Shivdatta
could
Gyani.
refer that. Yes, sir. The date of Kalidas.
Is it available on Amazon or Flipkart or something?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Awesome, awesome. That's great. I shall try and find that book. And thank you for the reference. I would request all the viewers to take that as the reference for Kalidas. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye. Okay, who else shall we bring in? Okay, let us bring in Mr. I. Mr. I, good evening.
Hello, sir. I'm a very big fan of you, sir. I can't
Very
tell,
nice to
but
meet you.
yeah.
So,
So,
what's your name? Where are you from?
sir, my name is actually my real name is Ishan, and I'm from. I actually used to write few comic strips, and there was a detective character called Mister Ice. Yeah. So I'm
I
from
understand.
Chennai,
Chennai.
Tamil
All right.
Nadu.
What's your question? Very nice. Very nice. What's your question?
Yeah. Actually, see, I have a lot of bottled up questions, but I can only ask one question, sir. Can you please talk about Saladin?
Salahuddin Ayyubi. Yes, Saladin. He is
Yes.
considered to be one of the greatest heroes of the Islamic world. So
Yeah.
Salahuddin Ayyubi was born, I think, somewhere in the I don't remember, Syria, was it? Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, so he was born in the Middle East. Uh, he is known. His exploits that are so famous are about fighting off the European crusaders who wanted to retake Jerusalem and the so-called Holy Land, which is the original uh, homeland of the Jews, and it is considered to be the birthplace of the Abrahamic religions of Christianity. And Jerusalem is the holiest city of the Jews, and it is also
Yeah.
a very holy place in Christianity. So the Crusaders were there were a number of crusades that came in from Europe into the Middle East, and the objective was to retake the Holy Land and Jerusalem and so on. And they actually succeeded from at certain points in time. So Salahuddin Ayyubi, his main exploits were to repulse the Crusaders and to give them the final defeat, which essentially ended the European rule over the Middle East. So he was born in, I believe, an aristocratic kind of family. His father was a governor of sorts
Yeah.
of some small town or something, right? And he rose to prominence because of his brilliance, because he was very capable as a military commander and all that. And he eventually became the king of Egypt. He became the sultan
Yeah.
of Egypt de facto. I mean, he was supposed to be the governor of Egypt, but he became so powerful, he raised an army, he rebuilt the city of Cairo and so on. Was it Cairo, was it Alexandria, one of these two?
Yeah, Cairo.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
Cairo.
yeah, Cairo, right. It had been destroyed in warfare and all that. So he rebuilt that. He built an enormous army, and he became more powerful than his overlord. And eventually, he got involved in the resistance to the Crusades, and he was able to prevail there as well. And he is treated as a hero because of his alleged chivalry, because he was very gracious even towards his enemies, and so on. So that's a little bit of about Saladin. I think there are a few
Yeah.
books about him. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that is uh, the role of Saladin in history. You know what, there are people who want to glorify the Turks and all. I think Saladin, I think, was a Kurd. He was not a
So you are
Turk, he was
trying
not an
to say
Arab, he was
that
a Kurd.
this is a person who should really be glorified.
I'm saying that in case they want to find an Islamic hero, they should look up to Saladin, because he actually had many significant achievements. Right now, the Turks are trying to valorize this guy called Jalaluddin Khwarezmi, who was a total loser. I mean, there is this Turkish serial called Ertugrul, something or the other, in
Yeah,
which they are
yeah.
valorizing
Resurrection
Ertugrul.
Ertugrul.
Yes. So now they're also trying to do the same for Jalaluddin Khwarezmi, who lost ignominiously to Chinggis Khan, and who was the last king of his dynasty. He presided over the dissolution and destruction of his dynasty. And the Turks are trying to valorize him and turn him into some sort of history, some sort of hero. So what I would recommend is that if you want a hero in the Islamic world, they should look up to Saladin, not Jalaluddin. So good
Yeah, sir.
question, sir. Good question.
Yeah, sir. I actually like his one of his quotes. I don't remember it fully, but it goes like, "Don't get in the habit of spilling blood, for blood does not sleep." I can't remember the full quote. There are 2 3 lines before they don't get the habit, but I can't exactly remember it. It
Interesting.
was against the
Interesting.
Crusaders who were, raiding the caravans through Middle East and disturbing the Hajj to, if I'm not wrong, Mecca.
Right. All right,
Yeah.
sir. Very nice to meet you.
So,
Great question. One
yeah,
question
so
only.
just
I'm all right.
just one kind request, sir. Can
Yes.
in the future someday can you make a video on the Iron Chancellor, the so-called Iron Chancellor of Germany, Otto von Bismarck?
Very good topic. I shall definitely put it on my to-do list. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you. Bye. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Who else shall we bring in? Who else shall we bring in? Let us bring in Parama. Hi, Parama.
Hi,
Good
sir.
evening.
Thanks for choosing me again.
Oh,
Yeah.
have you been here before? Okay, you have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. This is my second time. I already, participated
You
in the
got
first
lucky.
live.
You got really lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So,
am.
what's
I
your
am.
question?
Yeah. So I have a long question today. I have to read it out. So please.
Go on, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is like, why history has two sides, like left history and right history? Like nowadays, this has become political. Like my point is like, is this just political, or is this opinion based? Like for example, some people say that Marathas did invade West Bengal and created a lot of trouble, and some people say that whatever they did, it was for a noble act and it was for a noble cause. So my question is like, what is this thing? Because the history is just one fact. How can it have two sides, like completely two different sides?
So, yeah, good question. Very good question. So, what I would say is that, see, history is all written by individuals. Every individual has a certain bias, a certain perspective that is shaped by their environment, their upbringing, their worldview, their beliefs, their religion, their culture, and so on, and by their shared experiences, their lived experiences, and all that. So, every individual has a certain bias, and every
Hmm.
historian has a certain bias. And of late, history has been weaponized. History has been turned into a propaganda art kind of thing. So what Napoleon said is that history is a set of lies agreed upon. The ones who win the wars and who are the winners, they get to write the history. And
Yeah,
therefore we
yeah,
always see these biased accounts.
hmm,
Unfortunately, in the past 2000, 10,000 years of human existence, we did not have video cameras, audio equipment, so we were not able to record
yeah,
anything. So the only
yeah,
sources we have are the accounts of those who wrote history and the accounts that survived. In our case, in
hmm,
India, we had these enormous accounts of history which were all burned in the destruction of our universities and libraries, and that's why we lost it. Now, when it comes to the example that we gave, the Marathas,
hmm,
these lies have been repeated thousands of times. They are repeated thousands of times every year in the textbooks, in the school, in the classrooms and all. So the children, they grow up believing this, that this is our history, that the Marathas raided us and they destroyed Bengal and they burned everything, and there is this alleged poem that our mothers used to sing, and so on. The
yeah,
Bengalis believe that they had this enormous tradition of sati, 10,000 plus cases of sati every year in Bengal, which is
yeah,
utter lies, which is all propaganda again. But if you repeat this thousands of times to a
hmm,
child who is growing up, they are going to end up believing it, and I don't blame them for it. You see, I don't blame the people who believe all this propaganda, because they have grown up since their very beginning of life believing all this, being taught all this by their teachers, and that's the thing. So the main thing is that history and news as well have become propaganda tools. You have
hmm,
political, see, historians have traditionally been paid for by either the
yeah,
state or by certain political parties, and the same goes for news organizations. Until recently, we
hmm.
used to think news is the most unbiased thing in the world. Today, we find that
No,
news
it's
comes in
not.
various flavors. Today,
Yeah,
we find
yeah,
that
yeah,
news comes in various flavors, various political flavors, and so does
yeah,
history. So that's the thing, that we have to be very careful about what we believe now that we have kind of grown up. So we should be
yeah.
aware, acutely aware of the fact that everything is potentially flawed and propaganda. So that's what I would
Yeah.
say.
But if this is the truth, then my question, when it comes to West Bengal, there are a lot of things that we have learned from the childhood. Like for example, Sati, and how Raja Ram Mohan Roy has stopped it, and then there was child marriage and everything. So my question, like, was everything was simply a lie? Because like all my childhood, we have learned these things. This was our history. So, like now at this point of time, we have to all unlearn whatever things we have learned at the past.
I agree. I mean, I there was a point in my life when I realized everything I have learned is a lie. I mean, everything we have learned in the textbooks, most of it turned out to be lies. Because when you
Yeah.
look beyond the textbooks, when you look at the research papers, actual factual data and all, we find a
Hmm.
whole different story that actually stares us in the face. So it is all about, are we willing to accept the fact that all our mental conditioning has been lie, and we need to learn how to think again, learn what to believe again, or are we going to just be comfortable and say, "Nahi, nahi, main kuch nahi sochu, I will not go into anything. I will not believe anything new. I'm just comfortable
Yeah.
believing what I've always believed." It's about, are we
Hmm.
willing to grow, or are we just comfortable believing what we believe? That's all. So I think
Yeah.
most of us have the
Hmm.
capability to unlearn, relearn, and to grow as
Hmm.
individuals. So that is what I would exhort everybody to do, because you know what,
Hmm.
it is unfortunately true that everything we have been taught, most of it has been
Hmm.
lies. That's true.
But sir, now, like currently, right now, if I say like this is the history, this is the original history, and some other people say that that is the original history, people immediately label them as rightist or leftist. This is something that I really hate. Like if you're speaking something like this, people will tell you you are this, and if I'm speaking
Yeah.
like that, people will tell you that you're this.
Welcome to the world. I face this every day. People label me under all kinds of categories. Well,
Yeah,
there's nothing you can do to control the actions of others. What you can do
yeah,
is you decide what to do with your life. That's it. So live your
yeah,
best life, and forget about what others are saying. People will talk. Right? That's how it
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, Parama, wonderful question.
Yeah,
Nice meeting you again,
yeah.
and
Thank you, sir.
hope to
Nice
see you
to meet
again.
you again too. Yeah, yeah. Same,
All
sir.
right.
Good night, sir.
All right. Bye. All right, let's take some more questions. That was a wonderful question by Parama. Let me bring in Pranav Patil. Hello, Pranav Patil. Are you? Oh, you already asked the question. Sorry, sorry, sorry.
Yes, sir.
My
Yes, sir.
mistake. Okay, I'm gonna. Sorry. Okay, I'll get somebody else. Thank you. Okay, let us bring in Shikhar. Shikhar, hi.
Yes, sir. Hello and good evening, sir.
So where are you from, Shikhar?
Sir, I am from Mirzapur. It's in UP.
All right.
Okay,
And what's
sir.
your question, sir?
So my question is, I'm really sorry, but it's very synonymous to what Parma asked. That whenever we, like in today's time, one of the main sources for our information is internet. And whenever we read about any event or any topic on the internet, we find very opinionated and biased individuals who are very firm about their views. So just how
Yes.
to filter whatever we read, or how to
Very good question.
like how to filter it. And whenever we look at any political event or any event, like today's very hot topic is the Aryan Khan and all that case. So how to look at it from an unbiased eye when everybody is so opinionated about it?
All right, let me tell you how to do that. Ignore people's words, ignore people's opinions, just go straight for the facts. It's called first principles thinking. First principles thinking is in opposition to dogmatic thinking. Dogmatic thinking means you are relying upon the opinions and words of other people. That is one way of thinking. Okay, something has happened. What do I do? How do I form an opinion? I will go and see my favorite three vloggers. I will go and see my favorite three news channels, and I will read my favorite three bloggers. And on the basis of these people's opinions, I will form my own opinion. That is that is called dogmatic thinking. First principles thinking means you go to the actual source of the facts. What has happened? Let's talk about, for example, CAA. Everybody is against CAA, and everybody is against the farm laws. So one way of looking at it is to look at other people's opinions about CAA and the farm laws. The other thing is to use your own intelligence, read the actual law, what is written in the law, and then based on what the government, on the bill that has been passed, what has been written in the law, use your own intelligence, which you have been blessed with. We are all blessed with intelligence. Use your own intelligence, your own intellect, and use your own sense of judgment to parse through the words in the law, in the bill, which is available for free online. It's available to all of us, and based on that you form your own opinion instead of relying on the opinions of others. That's the simple way of not falling prey to all kinds of misinformation and propaganda, right? Unfortunately, and you know what, the problem is that our education system tells you to do the opposite. It tells you to believe what the teachers are teaching you, and it tells you to believe what is written in the textbooks and don't look anywhere else, because you are supposed to memorize the textbook and reproduce it in the exams, and you're supposed to unquestioningly, blindly, obediently believe your teacher. And that is what we go through for year after year for almost 2 decades, and that's why we end up in this mental state, that we just look for information in what others are saying instead of looking for the actual sources of information. Okay, so that is the way to ensure that you don't fall prey to propaganda and misinformation.
So
That
do
is
the
the best
research by
possible way.
yourself.
Absolutely. Rely and trust on your own wisdom and intelligence. We are all intelligent enough, but our education system makes us believe that we are not intelligent. So learn to trust yourself, learn to trust your intelligence, and look for the actual sources of information. All right.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Wonderful question. All right. I'll
Thank you,
see
sir.
you next time, hopefully. All right. Thanks.
Okay,
Bye
sir.
bye. All right. Let me bring in somebody else. Let me bring in somebody else. We have Yash Kilidar.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Yash.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Where are you from?
Sir, I'm from Jhansi, Uttar Pradesh, India.
Very nice. What's your question, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. First of all, I'm a very, very big fan of yours, sir. You're doing a great, great work for just realizing us Indians that what we were and what we have become, what is our potential, what we could do in future. So, should I ask my question? Or, am I audible to you?
Yes, I can hear you. Please ask your question.
Yes, sir. So my question is, like currently we are seeing in the world of geopolitics. You said in previous video that we are in a stage in the world like the 1930s. The world is at the stage of realignments. The countries, the global powers, right? And there are many, you know, factors which could play a very significant role in somebody's interest, like Afghanistan, like Taiwan's thing is going on. So Russia and China currently are on the same page, right? And India's relation with Russia are still warm. and we are doing great deals with them. But that Soviet era thing is missing, right? And we are India is getting involved and indulged in the West, like the US. We are doing exercises, we are buying some great stuff like Apaches, Chinooks, right? And C-17 Globe Masters. We are indulging with the West. We are more cooperating with the West. We are doing deals. We are in Quad now, although it's not a military alliance, but yeah, we are engaging with them. So what is your thought on this? Like, is US now a trustable ally? Because you said, uh, I know what the US is like. We all know what the US is. Uh, so the world is on the stage of realignments. So what is your thought that from here, where we could go? What will be the future?
That's a very interesting and very long question, but okay. See, so here is
I'm
how
really
it is.
sorry,
See,
sir.
the
I'm really
world.
sorry.
No, 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 perfectly fine. So the thing is that the world is always in a state of flux. The world is all ever
Yes.
changing. Geopolitical equations are always in a state of real alignment. But right now, more than before, the world is changing. This seems to be the decade in which a lot of change is going to happen. So, what does India need to do? Can we trust the US? No, we cannot trust the US, but we can trust them to follow their national interest. There is no
Yes.
trust in geopolitics. There is no friendship in geopolitics. There is no like or dislike in geopolitics. I have a certain interest. My country has a certain interest, long term interest. The other country has a certain long term national interest of their own. What you can do is analyze in detail what their long term geopolitical and national interests are. You understand what your interests are, and then you see if there is any area of convergence, either temporary or long term, and then you act according to those alignments and convergences, potential convergences. So right now, the US and India, our interests certainly converge, because we are both concerned about the incredibly aggressive and militaristic rise of China and the kind of actions they are taking. The US doesn't want the Chinese to become a superpower. Right? India doesn't want China to become too powerful and too aggressive, and because the Chinese have interests on Indian territory and so on, the Chinese are,
Yes.
they don't want India to be a powerful country, because it is a threat to them, and so on and so forth. So currently our interests are align. Right now, the Russians and the Chinese, their interests align to a certain extent. They have a very fraught history, and the Russians and Chinese do have nuclear missiles pointed at each other.
Yes,
So
sir.
it's always a complex thing. What I would say is that this current decade is going to be a decade of great change. What we do in this decade is going to shape our long term future, because India has two choices: either we become powerful on our own economically and militarily, or we'll forever going to have to rely on other countries, and that's not always going to be available
Absolutely.
to us.
Yes, sir.
So it's a decade of change. It is India's choice what India wants to do. We have all the potential in the world. We have a very young, intelligent population, the most talented people in the world. We have all the resources in the world. We are a superpower in waiting. If we do the right moves, then in the next 10, 20 years, we can be a middle income country. GDP per capita, overall GDP
Yes,
could
sir.
exceed 10 trillion, 15 trillion if we do the right things. Then we
Hmm.
could have a military strength commensurate with that. So it's all
Yes.
up to our leadership what steps they take, whether they make certain mistakes or they avoid those mistakes and go in the right direction. Right? So
Yes,
that's
sir.
the future. It all depends on
Yes, sir.
these factors. All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for the question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye
Thank you
bye.
so much, sir.
Okay, let's bring in some other people. Who else do we have? Who wants to come in? Okay, AG wants to come in. Hello, AG. Good
Yes,
evening.
sir. Good evening, sir. Nice
So, where are
speaking
you
to
from?
you. Hope so.
Nice speaking to
I'm
you.
from Maharashtra. I'm from
Okay,
Maharashtra.
what's your question? Very nice, very nice. What's your question?
I got a bunch of them. I got a bunch of them,
One
but you
question.
said one per person. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
So the main one, what were the metric systems before the Brits or the so-called Mughals in India or Bharat?
What was the which system? The metric system.
Yes.
The metric system is a very recent thing. It is something that was brought in after, post the development of the imperial system of units. The imperial system of units is the foot, the pound, and all that, the yard, and the gallon. So that is a system that's called the imperial system. It's something the British derived on their own. It developed in England. It's a British system. The
Mhm.
newest one, the metric system, is the kilometer, the centimeter, uh, the kilogram, and so on and so forth. That's the metric system. That's the latest, most scientific system. That's the one that's in vogue everywhere. In India, we had our own systems of units. I don't know what that noise is. I'm gonna have to mute you. All right. Yeah, okay. I've muted you, so it's fine. Okay, so the system in India was, we had our own system in the past. We had a system. I don't know what the system itself was called. We had the unit of weight. We had a number of units of weight. One was called the man. The man was a unit of weight. We had the tola in terms, when it came to measuring the weights of precious metals, I believe. And yeah, so we had these systems, and these have been wiped out. Even during the Indus era, the Sindhu Saraswati era of our civilization, we can see that there is this standardization of weights and measures. Whether you go to Harappa or Mohenjo-daro or Kalimangan or Rakhigarhi or Bharana or anywhere else, you find the same system of weights and measures. It was standardized across an enormous geographical region, which says that we have the same culture, the same civilization, and the same system of units and all that. Now we don't know what it was called, but it was very much standardized, and that is the reason why our ancestors were able to create this enormous, highly sophisticated, highly advanced urban civilization over such a large amount of land. So that's what we had. It is something that needs to be researched. I don't know what the system was called. It was in vogue more than 5,000 years ago, right? So we have always
I
had a
tried to Google
system.
it.
Yeah, it's not available. There's no information available because our researchers have been sleeping for the past many decades. We have not done any research about this, but it is there. It's staring us in the face. We have all these systems of weights and measures, the standard weights and measures throughout this geography. We don't know what it was called, but it was very sophisticated. It was very precise as well. Very small weights up all the way up
Yes.
to very large weights and all that. So it's there. We always had this thing, and it is the characteristic of a highly developed and highly advanced, scientifically and technologically advanced civilization. So that's what we had. Good question.
Sure.
So I got two
All right,
things. I got two things. I hope
one
I
question
hope you
only.
meet you. I hope you meet you. I hope I meet you in person
Yeah,
someday,
I would
and
love
just
to.
make a video on time, deep explanation about time.
Sure, I will put that on my potential to-do list. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye. Okay, who else? Let me bring in Aparachit. Hi, good evening.
Hello, sir. Am
So
I
where are you from?
audible?
You are audible,
Am I
yes.
audible, sir? I'm from Telangana. I came last time. I think you know, sir.
Okay, wonderful. What's your
Gautam.
question for today?
Mm, First of all, hello, sir.
Hello.
Mm, My question is, I wrote some questions, so I'll only ask one.
Yes.
Mm. Sir, in previous podcast, you told that in politics you have to do certain agenda. Like, uh, I'm unable to tell, sir.
Go ahead, go ahead. Don't be nervous. Go ahead.
Politicians need to create some victimhood in order to get the power, like
Mhm.
to win seats. And for that, they tell the lies. Like, Tamil party, they say we are the Dravidians, and they convert the people of Hindus in order to win the seats. So why don't they just tell the truth and win the seats? And they can win the seats by saying we are the one civilization, no discrimination of Hindu and Muslims, like that. Why don't they just tell the truth and win the seats?
You
Why
know
they
what?
do
If
hard?
I Right. Good question. Good question. So if I was a politician, which I won't be, but if I was a politician, I would not lie. But unfortunately, the politics, this business, it's a business actually. It's a cutthroat business. Uh, you have to find every advantage you can over the other party and so on. So the easiest way to win votes is to create a sense of discrimination, alienation, oppression, subjugation, and then say that we are the ones who are going to save you. We are going to tell you the real truth, that you have all been oppressed for 5,000 years by these white skinned Aryans, and so on and so forth. And that's why we are going to save you. We are the Dravidian party. We are all Dravidians. We should stick together, blah, 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 blah. And that's how they win votes. This is standard. These are standard strategies and tactics in politics, the worldwide, not just in India, and so that's what they are pursuing. It's kind of like geopolitics. There's no right or wrong. They will just do whatever they can to cling to power, to win power, and to stay in power. And lying is very much par for the course in politics. I would say that more than 90%, more than 99% of politicians are of this kind. The really great politicians, the true nationalists, are less than 1%, unfortunately. The majority of politicians are like this. They don't really care about the national interest or the upliftment and progress of the country and the people. They just want to come to power, because power translates into money. So that's all it is. Politics is the greatest and most lucrative business in the country. And that's why they will do anything to come to power. And the easiest way is to create divisions in society and exploit those divisions. That's just how it works. Unfortunately, it's just bad. It's sad, but that's how it is. So that's your answer, sir. That's why they do it.
Thank
All
you,
right.
sir. Sorry for I stopped in the middle.
Not at all. Not at all. Always nice to talk to you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Let us bring in Bharat. Hi, Bharat.
Hi, sir.
Good evening.
Great fan of you.
Very nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you. What's your question, sir? Where are you from, first of all?
So I'm from Bhagyanagar, that is Hyderabad.
All right.
So I listen to your podcast as religiously every day while I travel to my office.
Thank you so much. Great honor for me.
So, sir, my question is regarding Cold War era. So we know the Cold War is a time of spies, and they even mentioned that India is a paradise for spies. So I would like to understand what is the role of either KGB or CIA in subverting the nation, or deciding what the policy that needs to be taken by the government. So what was their impact in the policy making of our leaders?
That's a good question. So India, see, every country in the in the 20th century was essentially, in some way or the other, a playground for the Cold War tug of war between these two superpowers, the USA and the USSR. Now, India was very much a Soviet satellite, whether we like it or not. That's the case. During the Nehruvian regime, because of the policies of Mr. Nehru and the later policies of the succeeding regimes, India was very much in the Soviet camp, not in the US camp. So there was a great deal of infiltration. There must have been. Some of it has been revealed, some of it has been not. But there was clearly a great deal of infiltration of the KGB and other Soviet instruments of power into the Indian administrative and governance machinery, and even in the academic sphere, and so on and so forth. Some of it has been really revealed by a Soviet defector to the West, Yuri Bezmenov, I believe his name was. So this has been revealed. Mitrokin archives and so on. Yes, so much of it has. Some of it has been revealed. I think most of it has not been revealed, I would say. So we certainly had that. And of course, the Americans would not want to be left behind. So they also infiltrated various political parties in various parts of India. They had access to a lot of cash and money, and therefore India's politicians, I believe, to some extent, were playing both sides. It's all about money. Politics is about money. So the CIA was involved. The KGB was involved. I think the KGB's involvement has been revealed to a greater extent than the involvement of the CIA. But clearly, the CIA also had a great deal of you could say, influence in India, because see, when the Bhopal gas disaster happened, which was a crime against humanity, the Indian government allowed the guy who was running the show, Warren Anderson, I believe his name was. He should have been arrested on the spot, but he was allowed to quietly slip out of India. And obviously, there is a great deal of American influence in this, because he was an American citizen, US citizen. The company Union Carbide was a US company. So this is just one example of how the kind of influence even the Americans had at the highest levels of the Indian government. So India was very much a playground of spies, of the intelligence agencies, etc., of both the superpowers. India was very deeply infiltrated by both the sides. And so that's how it's been, because see, the politicians in the past have never cared about the national interest. It was all about staying in power, clinging to power, and making money. And that's how the game was played in those days. You had so many scams. India's defense industry was never allowed to take off, even though we had developed fighter aircraft like the Marut, which was a world class fighter aircraft, etc. But because these foreign powers convinced our politicians that don't develop your arms industry, just buy weapons from us and we will give you uh, a certain percentage of the deal and so on. So clearly this cannot happen just by a politician coming to India and talking to you. It happens through covert means. So for that you need organs of intelligence like the CIA, the KGB, and so on. So that's why India was buying weapons from Russia to a great extent. India also bought weapons from the West to a lesser extent, like the Bofors uh, howitzers. We bought certain aircraft from France. We had the Jaguar aircraft, I believe, and so on and so forth. So there's always been a significant infiltration of India's governance and other systems by spies from various countries. I'm sure there have been Pakistani and Chinese spies also in India, but that has not been revealed to a large extent. I'm sure these games are still being played as we speak, and such is the case always. So that's a little about that. Very interesting question. That's something we have not
Thanks.
covered, I think, before.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you for your question.
Thank you,
Thanks.
sir.
Bye
Thank you.
bye. All right. Who else do we have here? Who has been waiting for a long time? Has anybody been waiting for a long time? I'm not sure. Okay, let me bring in Aditya.
Hello, sir. Nice to meet you.
Hello. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Where are you from, sir?
Yes, sir. I am Aditya Kanbal. I'm currently in ninth grade and I am from Bhubaneswar, Odisha.
Bhubaneswar. Beautiful place. Beautiful place. Very nice.
Yes.
Very nice. So
Yes,
what's your
sir.
question, sir?
Yes, sir. Sir, my question was, sir, many days ago, sir, I was watching some documentaries in a YouTube channel, sir, which is I feel trustworthy. Sir, there it was saying about relations between ancient Persian culture and the Vedic culture. Sir, so can you elaborate on it, sir? Because I have also noticed, like they were saying in the Shahnama, which is their greatest epic, there are many similarities to that of the Krishna story that we do have, and there are a lot of words that we have similar. Then one more question in that same category, that why did they invert, like they are having Ahura Mazda, which is like Asura, S is replaced with H, and sir then they say that devas are rejected gods, sir, so please elaborate.
Fantastic question. Very nice question. I'm glad that at this age you are showing an interest in these deep topics. Very interesting. So let me explain what is the relation between ancient India and ancient Persia, because as you say, there is a great deal of commonality in the foundational stories, in the culture, in the language, and so on. So let's talk about language first. For instance, like you said, the ancient Persian language was very much very similar to the ancient Sanskrit language. You just replace certain pronunciations with a different pronunciation. Instead of sa, you say ha, and it becomes ancient Persian. So instead of Saraswati, you say Haravati, right? And so on. So S becomes H, and that was more or less it. So it was just like a dialect of Sanskrit. Uh, so that's what ancient Persian language was. Now, when it comes to the Shahnama, if you look at if you read the Shahnama, if you look at the legend of the foundation, the very first kings of Iran, they are the same kings and the same people that are mentioned in the Rig Veda, in the foundational story of the Rig Veda, right? So you have the same foundational myths, the same ancient kings that are depicted in the Shahnama. So it's clear that the Iranians and the Indians were the same people at one point in time. The Persians were clearly the same as the Indians. And so why is it that way? So what happened was that at some point in time there was a migration out of India, and this they went westwards and they settled in Persia. The ancient capital of Persia was Parshvapur, which is now known as Persepolis, right? Parshvapur. uh, the clan, the Rigvedic or post Rigvedic clan of ancient Indians that went westwards and settled in Persia was called the Parshva clan, the Parshva people. And this name of the clan was given eventually, it became the name of the land, it became Persia, right? And the capital city was Persepolis, which is Parshvapur, and so on. The language is the ancient Persian language was almost the same as Sanskrit. Later, it diverged slowly, right? So even today, today's Persian language, the Parsi language, the Iranian language, it is quite similar to Indian languages. I have known people from Iran who have stayed in India for a year or two. They've picked up Hindi very easily. And they speak Hindi just like natives, So it tells you about the closeness linguistically of the two languages. So the Persians, the ancient Persians, were the descendants of ancient Indians, not the other way around, and they are not the descendants of some Aryan invasion into India and Persia. It was an it was a number of successive waves of migrations out of India westwards and northwards, and Persia was one of the places that was settled by these one of these waves of migration. And the language is very similar. For instance, we say Chandra, they say Chand, right? There is this ancient Iranian Persian hero called Khurshid, right? Uh, so Khurshid is supposed to be he is supposed to represent the sun. Khurshid. So let me tell you the origin of the name Khurshid. And there is another name called Jamshed also, right? Jamshed Khurshid. So in the ancient mythology, you in Sanskrit, what was it like? In Sanskrit, the name of the sun, the word for sun is Swar. Swara means the sun, and the word Kshet means shining. So when you say Swara Kshet, it means shining sun. So this term, Swara Kshet, got transformed into Khurshid. So if you ask the people of Iran what is the meaning of the name Khurshid, they'll say it is the sun. Right, the name Khurshid means the sun in in the Persian culture. So that's the same as Swarakshet of in Sanskrit. Similarly, the sun, the firstborn son of the great sun god, was Yama. He was the first human being, Yama, right? And because he was the son of Surya, of Swar, so Yama was also very shining. So he was called Yamakshet, shining Yama, and that became Jamshed in Persian, right? So you can see the similarities from these little anecdotes, from these little vignettes of knowledge. So the fact of the matter is that the Persians are the descendants of ancient Indians. The home of the Indo-Iranians and the Indo-European peoples is ancient India. It's very ancient, and that's why these similarities exist. And
Sir,
nowhere
actually,
are
sir,
we.
I got interested in this topic, sir, because one day I was searching about Zoroaster, sir, as we were taught by our teacher. Sir,
Yeah,
it was written Zarathustra. Sir, I suddenly felt it
Zarathustra.
sounds like Sanskrit. Sir, then I listened to some hymns of their and their culture, sir. They also worship fire like us, and their
Right. Yes.
pronunciation, sir, is like Sanskrit.
Yes,
Yes.
so Zarathustra. In Sanskrit, Zarath means yellow or golden, and Ustra means camel. So Zarathustra means yellow camel or golden camel, or perhaps old camel, right? So it's a Sanskrit name. Now he proclaimed himself as the guy who has received some wisdom from God, and he inverted the morality. So the devas became kind of evil and the asuras became kind of good. In India, the devas are kind of better and the asuras are kind of have a slightly negative connotation. So he inverted that. And yet the truth is that Zoroastrianism is not a monotheistic religion. It is very much a polytheistic religion, just like Hinduism. And that is something people try to hide from us. So yeah, it's a very fascinating topic, the ancient relations between India and ancient Persia. Everything came from India. Zarathustra was born a Hindu because he's the one who started Zoroastrianism. So he came up with this idea. So they were all Hindus, they were all Indians, they all had the same culture. It changed over time, right? So great question, Aditya. Wonderful. Nice
Thank you,
talking to
sir.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you so
sir.
much. Thank you.
Hope to meet
Thank
you
you. Bye.
again.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye. All right. Whom shall we bring in? Whom shall we bring in? Let us bring in Kumar. Hello, Kumar.
Hello, sir. Very good evening to you.
Nice meeting you. Where are you from?
I'm from Paradip, Odisha.
Very nice. Paradeep Orissa. So, what's your question?
Yes, sir. Sir, first of all, sir, if you allow me to rectify one factual mistake that you have been while answering
Oh, please
one
tell
of the
me.
previous. Yeah, thank you very much, sir. So kind of you. So actually, it was Mirage aircraft that we have brought from France in the early 1980s. It was not Jaguar. Jaguar was European origin, mainly based on United Kingdom.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Actually,
sir.
Jaguar is an Anglo French aircraft, so it is French as well. Let me tell you that. All right.
Okay,
Okay.
sir.
What's your
Fine, sir.
question?
Yes, sir. So my question is regarding the NRI community. As an Indian, despite having a large presence of NRI community throughout the world, but unlike the Jewish or Chinese, in certain extent, we are not able to influence the global narratives. And apart from
Yes.
that, should we celebrate the success of our NRI community? Because to an extent, I believe it promotes brain drain. What is your take on this?
So it's a good question. I think I have answered this before. I mean, people ask me about people like Kamala Harris, and Sundar Pichai, and so on and so forth. I mean, does their success have any positive effect on India? And clearly, it does not, because it doesn't contribute anything to India, right? And they are contributing to the success of the United States and of the West. I mean, Google has no pro India policies whatsoever, despite Mr. Sundar Pichai being their boss and so on, right? Now, the NRI community, as opposed to the global Jewish diaspora, contributes very little to India, either geopolitically or strategically or in any other way. Or if you take into account the Chinese diaspora, they are very much pro China, pro CCP policies and so on. But in India, it's not the case. So there are a couple of reasons for that. First of all, when it comes to the Jewish community, Judaism is a very it's a monotheistic religion. It's a kind of, compared to a polytheistic religion like what we call Hinduism, Judaism is very monochromatic, and it's very clearly focused on the national interest of Israel, and therefore the entire Jewish community has a very strong interest in the national in furthering promoting the national interest of Israel. When it comes to India, we are a very divided nation. We don't even have a concept of nation, or we don't even have the concept of the national interest. If I ask somebody on the street what is India's national interest, they have absolutely zero idea. And we don't have a strong sense of community. There is no common thread that seems to bind India together. And therefore, when Indians go abroad, they simply drift off into their own orbit, and they try to assimilate and mix in with whatever country uh, they have settled in, and they try to contribute to their country only, and they feel a sense of alienation towards India, which is not the case in the case in the instance of Israel or China. Two examples. So that's the reason, because we don't have any strong common thread that binds us together. Our constitution is a foreign constitution. It doesn't give you a sense of identity of being Indian. What if I ask somebody what does it mean to be Indian? I will get 1,000 different answers, and none of them will have something in common with each other. So these are the reasons. This is the challenge that India faces together. We have been bound together as a nation state, even though in the past we used to be a civilization state, in which we had something common that bound us all together, despite living in so many different parts of the world and having so many differences in language and traditions and all that. And still we had something in common in the past. Today we don't have that. We have been defined in a way that doesn't give us anything in common. So that's the reason why Indians and NRIs don't really contribute anything to us. They try to escape from India, because India actually doesn't give anything to India's citizens. There is so much
Yes, sir.
scarcity in India. You don't get enough jobs, and if you get a job, you're treated very poorly. The government treats you terribly. You pay taxes, but you don't get good roads, you don't get good conditions, you get harassment all the time from the authorities. So everybody wants to leave India, and people think that it's because of India's culture that it is like this. It's not the case. It's because of India's governance system, which is a parasitic rent seeking system. That's why India is in such a bad shape. So the thing is that NRIs go out and live abroad to escape these conditions in India. So yeah, it does contribute to the brain drain, and the solution is to reform India. It's not the fault of the NRIs, right?
Right,
So
sir. Right, sir.
that's your
Absolutely.
answer. That's your answer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, if you allow me, I would like to add a metaphor about
Go
the
on, please.
Rafale, sorry, the Mirage and Jaguar thing that I have pointed out.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And sir, in while the development phase, the France opted out of the Jaguar project in the last stage. So Jaguar is not fundamentally a French thing; it's more of a British thing. And to counter it, they created their own Mirage program.
Thank you very much for this information. Thank you. All right. Nice
Thank you.
talking to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Bye. All right. Who else do we have? Who else do we have? Hello, Panu.
Hello, sir. Sir, I'm very.
How-
Yes, sir,
Yes.
I appeared. Sir, I'm very happy that you remember me.
I think I've seen you last time as well, right?
Yes, sir,
Yes. Very
I
nice to
was
see
the
you.
first person.
Awesome. Awesome. So where are you from?
Sir, I'm from Jammu and Kashmir.
Ah, yes, yes, yes. I do recall now. Yes. So what's your question?
Sir, can you tell me about Bappa Rawal and Bappa Rawal? Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, good question. Bappa Rawal was a Rajput uh, king, I think, who resisted the Turkic invasions of India. So I believe there is some kind of legendary story about him, because historians have once again not really researched or given us any information, any concrete information about Bappa Rawal. So whatever we know about him is through these semi-legendary stories about him. So one of the stories that I heard or read about a long time ago is that Bappa Rawal was some kind of a brigand of some kind, right? And he used to get into fights with lots of people and so on, and that's why he was asked to leave his hometown and so on. And he built up a kingdom of sorts. He had a lot of followers who were all Rajputs, and he met this religious spiritual leader called Baba Gorakhnath, who told him that there is this terrible invasion of India that's happening in the northwest of India. It is from the Turks in present day Pakistan, Afghanistan, etc. So he exhorted him to go with his followers and fight off this invasion. So Bappa Rawal did that. He went to Punjab and he fought the Turks. He defeated them, got rid of them, expelled them from India, and he was able to delay the Turkic invasions of India for a significant period of time. And he founded a city in Punjab, which is now known as Rawalpindi, the town of Rawal, right? And eventually, after he returned back to his to the heartland of India, then they went northwards into northern India, into the Himalayan regions, the foothills of the Himalayas, and they settled down there, Baba Rawal and his followers. And because they were followers of Baba Gorakhnath, that's why their descendants are called the Gorkhas. So that is the legendary story that I have heard. Of course, there is very little factual information available because we have lost our sources and our historians have done no real research. But that's the mythical, not the mythical, but semi-legendary story I've heard. I'm not saying he's a mythological character. He is very much a historical character, and a very significant historical character, somebody who really fought for India and repelled the Turkic invasions of India. So a very significant character, but I think we need significantly more historical research into his life and times and into the great deeds that he did for the country. So very interesting question.
Thank
All
you, sir.
right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Banu. Nice to see you again. Thank you. Bye.
Yes, sir. Good night, sir.
Good night. Good night. All right. Who else do we have? I can see Siddharth. Siddharth is raising his hand. Let me bring in Siddharth. Hi.
Hi, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, sir. Where are you from?
Sir, Bhubaneswar, Odisha.
Well, well, well. Today we have lots of people from Orissa. So nice to see that. So nice to see that. What's your question?
Sir, which form of power is more powerful? Is it the political power or the money power or any other form of power? And especially in our
That's
country.
that's a very good question. Power is the same throughout the world. Throughout the world, power is the same thing. So I would say that real power, political power, always trumps wealth. Money is not power. Money is something that buys you things. But let me explain the difference between power and money. Wealth means you have a lot of money uh, where you're able to access a lot of money and you can buy things and so on. Power is something else entirely. Power means you have 100 soldiers, heavily armed soldiers at your disposal, who will obey you instantaneously without question and do whatever you say. That is called real power. And all political power is derived from actual street power in that manner. If you look at the political parties in India, they all have foot soldiers who can go out on the streets and shut down an entire city at a moment's notice. That is where actual political power comes from, because they have an army of people. You could say some of these political parties, I'm not naming any political party, by the way. There are hundreds of political parties in this country, so I'm just talking in general, not just India but across the world. Real political power comes out of this sort of power. Mao Zedong said that political power flows out of the barrel of a gun,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Yeah, so in politics, unless you have an army of foot soldiers who are willing to obey you instantaneously and do whatever you say, unless you have that, you don't really have political power. And therefore, when people say that this person should start a political party, I mean, you don't have the funds. So that's where funding comes in. If you want to maintain an army of people like that, then you need funds. So yes,
Yeah,
money does contribute to some extent to this, but you can raise an army of people without money too, if you have the charisma and the leadership qualities,
something like
so it's a
ideologies.
complex thing. Sorry.
Something like ideology.
Yes, if you have the ideology and you can bring people over to your ideology, convince them, and show that you are a leader that people should follow and so on, then you can build a political movement out of it. Of course, it is quite difficult. That's why we have so little of that happening. But that is power. Real power is just the number of people who are willing to obey you instantaneously without question. There is a difference between influence and power. For instance, let's say you are a person with 1 million followers on Twitter, and when you say something, your followers are willing to listen to you, and they may perhaps take you seriously, or they may not perhaps take you seriously. Maybe they are following because you are entertaining, or maybe they are following you because you have something really interesting to say. But that is merely influence. They will not obey you without question and instantaneously. So that is influence. Power is you actually own an army of people who will follow you and obey you instantaneously. So that is the very fundamental definition of power. How many people are willing to follow you and obey you instantaneously? At what scale? At what scale can you project that power? So that's what it is.
Sir, you mentioned previously that power translates into wealth, but how can that happen? Like in India, like there
If
is
you have,
corruption. I agree.
of course, if you have 1,000 people willing to follow you and do whatever you say, you can use them to extort the entire population of a city. That's how simple it is. Have you heard of hafta vasuli? Come on, my
Uh,
friend, wake up. Add two and two together. It's all there right in front of you. If you have an army of people who will do what you say, you can extort as much money as you want. You can come to political power. You can become some MP or MLA or whatever, or something higher than that. And once you are in that position, you can extort even more power, extort even more money. So that is the relationship between power and money, right? Very simple. Got it?
yes, I got it. Thank you, sir.
All right. Very nice talking to you. Good question. Thank you. Bye. Okay, who else do we have? I can see Divyang. Let me bring in Divyang. Good evening, sir. Can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, I
Your
was on
audio is
mute.
not.
I was on mute.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay.
And
Right,
great
right.
to
Where are
see
you
you.
from,
Very
sir?
happy to see you.
Very happy to see you as well. Where are you from, sir?
So I am from Vadodara, Gujarat, India, but I'm currently
Very
working
nice.
in Miami, Florida.
Awesome, awesome. So it must be morning for you, right?
Yeah, it's close to noon, 12.
All right, all right. So what's your question, sir?
First of all, very happy to see you, all these young people and kids on your channel. So your noble cause is going
Absolutely.
in very good direction.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, so the question is, do we have a really track on our old, the text, the Vedas and Puranas? Means I don't know, I have read somewhere or heard somewhere that all original texts are in Germany. So is it something like that?
So I haven't. Yeah, first of all, good question. What about the original texts? So I haven't heard that the original texts are in Germany. There is no one original text. What we find is that there are many ancient temples which have these palm leaf manuscripts, and many of these manuscripts are have not been studied at all, and many of them are gathering dust. So there are many original texts right there, and some of them they have been studied, and the ASI and some other organs of the government are trying to digitize them or preserve them. But I think more than 95% of these ancient manuscripts have not been preserved. They have not even been examined. So I think even though we lost the vast majority of our texts in the destruction of our universities and libraries 1,000 years ago, still many of the temples that survived these destruction, they actually do preserve, and they still do contain many of these ancient texts. For instance, the Arthashastra was rediscovered in this manner because one of these ancient manuscripts was the Arthashastra. So what happened is that these texts, the Vedas, etc., they were written very, very, very long ago, and they were passed on orally by rote memorization, by precise memorization. So, and this tradition continued generation after generation for very, very long time, for many thousands of years. And eventually, maybe around 2000 or so years ago, some people actually wrote it down, and that's how it was preserved in the physical form. And then many copies were made, and many temples uh, had these copies. And similarly for the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, if you go to Thailand or Cambodia or whatever, they have their own versions of the Ramayana and Mahabharata, which they have also preserved for many, many generations, for more than 1000, 2000 years, possibly. So I would say that I don't know about the German. I'm sure even the Germans have some original texts which they may have taken from India, because the Germans were very much interested in Indology and Sanskrit, because Sanskrit is in some ways quite similar to the German language in terms of the kind of sandhi structure we have in Sanskrit and the
Right.
grammatical structure we have. So the Germans were very much interested in Sanskrit. You had German philosophers who were deeply influenced by the Upanishads and the Vedas and so on. Schopenhauer is one example.
Mhm.
So it's possible, like you said, that some original texts may currently be in Germany, but I think we have way more original texts in India, and we have not even studied them, examined them, carbon dated them to see how old they were and how long ago they were written. But
Mhm.
I think that the majority of whatever is has survived is still in India, and I hope that the government does show some initiative in preserving them and digitizing them so that we don't lose whatever
Right.
knowledge we still have.
So the Gita Press in Gorakhpur, they do have many means the texts, I believe, but they are out of funding or very low funding, I believe.
Yes, the Gita Press has done a very, very important. They have played a very important role in preserving many of our ancient
Right.
texts. They have published versions of their version of the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, the Gita, etc. And many texts that people are not really aware of. So they have done that, but unfortunately, it's not very well funded. We have all these. We have all kinds of unnecessary things being
Yeah.
funded, but something as valuable as the Gita Press, which is doing such incredible and important work, is not getting enough funding. So that's the tragedy of modern India.
Right.
And I hope the situation changes, because the government has the funds, the power to do to change everything if they want.
Right. That's what I was about to say. That instead of funding the farmer agitation and the CA protest, we should fund this type of thing. But thank you very much for taking my question. Maybe I'll ask more question next time.
Thank you so much. Very nice to meet you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye. Okay. Whom shall we bring in? Many people are raising their hands. Hello. Hi, can you see me?
Hello, sir. Sir, I am honored to talk to you, sir.
Very nice to talk to you. Where are you from?
Sir, I am right now in Punjab, Firozpur, sir. My father is in
Okay,
army.
okay.
He is an army officer.
Awesome. Salute to your father, sir.
Thank you, sir. So my question is that how can we remove democracy, like the present fake democracy, and instead implement the democracy which was used in ancient India? So, and also how can do we have to point guns at the national politicians, or which countries would resist our motion against the fake democracy which is controlled by the Britishers, which is indirectly controlled by the Britishers? So how can we do that?
Right. I am very much against pointing guns at anybody. So we need to, we need to consider alternatives to that. So the first thing is that we need to ensure that everybody in India understands that the constitution that we are currently following has been imposed upon us undemocratically. Since we are talking about democracy, the constitution uh, should come into force in a democratic manner. Let me give you an example. Let's talk about the US Constitution. When the Americans won their war of independence, their so called founding fathers drafted a constitution for their country. It is about 7 pages long. And then this constitution was put to a vote, which means that the entire country was asked, those who were eligible to vote, white men only, but whatever. So they were asked whether they are willing to accept the constitution or not. Yes or no. It's called a referendum. So the constitution was put to a referendum, and when the majority of those who are eligible to vote, they approved the constitution, only then did it become binding on the country. So it was brought to power, brought into effect through a democratic vote, through a referendum. Now when it comes to India, the Constituent Assembly of India was undemocratic in its very genesis. It did not represent the people of India. It was a bunch of people who were handpicked, who were elected through an election uh, that involved the participation of about only 13% of the eligible population of India. And many of the people of the Constituent Assembly were actually handpicked. They were members of nominees of princely states, and so on and so forth. So, first of all, the Constituent Assembly that drafted the Constitution did not represent the will of the people of India. Secondly, after the Constitution was drafted and created, they put "We the people of India" on it, but it was not put to a vote. The people of India were not given the opportunity to either accept it or reject it. It was just imposed upon us by force. And that is the constitution we are forced to follow today. And all our laws, all our Hindu phobic laws, all of it comes from there. And of course, the majority of the laws are still leftovers from the British regime, from the British occupation of India. So if the people of India understand this fact, if they, first of all, people don't even know this. They think that the constitution represents our will, and the so-called drafters of the constitution were people who represented the will of the people of India, which is a lie. So this knowledge is not known to 99% of the people of India, right? And unless it is known, people will not wake up. So the first step is that people need to know this, that the constitution is an illegitimate, undemocratically imposed constitution. And secondly, once they know this, then they need to put pressure on the politicians to change it. Because if the constitution is illegitimate and undemocratic, it has to be changed in a democratic manner. So we need a new constituent assembly to draft a new constitution, and then we will have real democracy. If it is a properly done constitution in a democratic process, then we will actually possibly have a true democracy. We will have a new constitution that reflects our cultural and civilizational values, not Western values, right? So that's
Yes.
what needs to happen. Pointing guns at people is counterproductive. It's going to invite retaliation from the state, and that's never going to help anyone. But it has to be done in this manner. Spread the knowledge, spread the fact that the constitution is illegitimate and undemocratic. That's the first step we need to do, right?
Sir, in earlier podcast, you have also mentioned that there are countries who will resist the right now current government intentions to make a Hindu Rashtra. So, who are those countries, and why they would resist this kind of motion which would happen in India?
It's the Western world. They want their system of governance, their system of values to be spread all across the world, right? So today we are following Western values and the Western system of governance, and they want this system to spread worldwide, and they don't want it to be removed from any country. The moment somebody goes against the West, you know what happens to them. There's a regime change attempt and all that, which we see everywhere. For instance, Saddam Hussein was part of the Western machinery, but eventually, when he did something that they did not like, they removed him, and so on and so forth. So if right now there are countries like Russia which follow their own system, Iran which follows its own system, China which follows its own system, and the West doesn't like that. They are trying to undermine these countries. I'm not saying we should support China, but I'm just giving an example. So the moment India tries to do that, they are going to try and undermine us as well. The West is all powerful right now, but things are changing. So India needs to bide its time and do it when the time is right. That's your answer, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Nice talking to you. Bye. Okay. Everyone's raising their hands. Hello. Hi. Sandipan.
Yes. Hi. Hi, sir.
Where are you from, sir?
I'm from Kolkata.
Kolkata. Very nice. Very nice. Been there long ago. So, what's your question, sir?
So my question is that I have studied with a lot of people from the West, and I have come to realize that they are not as smart as Indian, means from my limited experience that I have. So my question is that is it a true assumption, or can it be proved genetically that we Indians are are the most intelligent people when it comes to mathematics, at least? And means yeah. So that was my question.
Okay. Okay. Very nice question. Very good question. So, the answer is something like this. I think that people the world over are more or less the same, actually, but cultures and civilizations are different. So if you take the average individual anywhere in the world, their level of intelligence will depend on mostly the kind of nutrition they had through their childhood. So people who were malnourished or who went through poverty and therefore they did not get sufficient nutrition, their IQ level will be low, unfortunately. So that is one thing that is found across the world. So there are places in sub-Saharan Africa where the overall average IQ is low. Now, people like Nassim Nicholas Taleb say that IQ itself is a pseudo scientific swindle and it does not take everything into account, overall intelligence and so on. So what I would say is that I would not say that it's a genetic thing that some people are more intelligent, some are less intelligent. I would say it's a cultural and civilizational thing. So if you look at the history of the past 10,000 years of the world, you will see that India was the most technologically, scientifically advanced civilization in human history. All of mathematics, astronomy, everything came out of India. We have the oldest evidence of astronomical observations in the world. We the first recorded evidence of a supernova, which is from about 5500 BCE, from northern India, Kashmir. And mathematics developed in India, calculus, trigonometry, infinite series, everything developed in India. It was later appropriated by the West. Ayurveda, pharmacology, toxicology, astronomy, navigation, so many sciences, everything developed in India. In the Saraswati Sindhu phase of our civilization, we had extremely advanced architecture, town planning. We had standardization of weights and measures. And if you look at our ancient literature, we seem to have figured out the speed of light several thousand years ago, and so on. So civilizationally, we were able to create an environment for a very long period of time in which the pursuit of pure knowledge was not just encouraged, it was regarded as the highest ideal and the highest thing one can pursue in one's human existence. So it is a cultural and civilizational thing that Indians always produce the greatest thinkers, the greatest philosophers, the greatest mathematicians, the greatest scientists, and so on. So I think I would not say that it's a genetic thing that Indians possibly may be superior to people from other parts of the world in terms of intellect. I think uh, it's a cultural and civilizational thing. If you create the right sort of environment, then even the most average person will be motivated to pursue knowledge and to try and seek and try and contribute some kind of advancement in knowledge to humanity. So I think it's a cultural and civilizational thing, and unfortunately we have lost that right now. So we need to rebuild that, you know.
Mhm. So if it is a cultural thing, but we started it first, right? So why
Yes.
the Western people couldn't start it before us? We are the ones who started the Hindu culture. This such a complicated culture that we have started. Why they couldn't start before us?
Because we had the culture that promoted such pursuit of knowledge, pursuit of excellence. It is something that was built over a very long period of time, maybe 10,000 years or more, and that was preserved. In other parts of the world, maybe they did not have the kind of climate that we had here, so that we could live this peaceful life and we could build large cities, right? In Europe, for instance, you have a very different climate. It's very cold, and it's hard to live to build large civilizations unless you're the 21st century or 20th century. And we know that people who lived in other parts of the world lived rather primitive lives. I would not use it as a say this in terms of a value judgment. It's merely an observation that people in other parts of the world lived rather primitive lives compared to the great civilization in the Saraswati Sindhu region and the rest of India. So if you live a life that is fraught with danger, in which you have in which you have fights and clashes with other tribes and all that, and if you don't have a settled system of agriculture and all those things, then you are not going to be able to develop any culture or knowledge or science or philosophy. I mean, if you don't know whether you'll be alive tomorrow or not, you will not be able to think philosophical thoughts, right? So that's the kind of system we had. It was a very peaceful culture and civilization for many thousands of years. I mean, there's this article in the New Scientist that says that the Indus Valley region seems to have had a complete absence of warfare for a very long period of time. So these are the reasons, these are the factors that create an environment that is conducive to the intellectual thought process. And that's why we had that.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot, sir, for that.
Thanks
For
for your
that
question. Very interesting question. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Bye bye.
Thank
Okay, let's take some more questions. Do we have anybody? Okay, here we have Mr. Akshay Kabra. Hi.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing? Where are you from?
So I'm from Udaipur, Rajasthan.
Very nice, very nice. What's your question?
So, sir, I want to ask you. Recently in China, there was an article trended from their media house named Soho about the Chinese expansion in till 2050. So, do you believe that China can take over China can take over Taiwan, Arunachal Pradesh, and then Russian land? Do you believe in this theory that China can do this thing by 2050?
I think that if the Chinese are allowed, first of all, it's about what we allow them to do, and secondly, it's about what they are capable of doing. If they are able to sustain the economic growth that they would like to see, then they will have the resources to build up a very powerful military. And they certainly are an expansionist nation. The Chinese Communist Party envisages complete global hegemony across the world. They want to recreate a middle kingdom kind of thing, in which China is the center of the universe and everybody comes and pays tribute to the Chinese, and it is the only large power in the world. All other powers are either small or completely fragmented or weak. So they would like to see India to be broken up into pieces. They would like to see parts of India be absorbed into China, like Arunachal Pradesh, and they would like to see India broken up into north, south, east, west, all that. They have been fomenting problems in India for a very long period of time, since the 1950s, 60s, in Kashmir, in the northeast of India. So yes, they definitely have this sort of agenda. They have this dream of taking over the world. They also have unfinished business with the Russians. They almost went to war with Russia in the 1960s. The USSR almost nuked China, which it almost came to that. They had a territorial dispute for a very long time, which was settled in the 1990s and 2000s, I believe. So that is something the Chinese haven't forgotten. As they grow more powerful, they will want to reclaim that territory also from the Russians, or to claim it, and so on. So the Chinese, the rise of China is not a peaceful rise. They want to take over. First of all, they want to take back Taiwan, like everybody knows. And once that happens, they will want to take over other parts like Arunachal Pradesh and so on, and they will want to fragment India. So I believe that they are very serious about this. They have been writing about this for a very long time. Unfortunately, most of the writings, most of the publications are in the Chinese language. And since in India we have not developed the scholarship in the Chinese language so that we understand them, that's why we don't really know about it. But the West has been studying this. There has been about 20 years ago, there was this publication called Unrestricted Warfare by a couple of Chinese military officers, which speaks about all these things, about militarizing law, militarizing other things as well, and using a system of complete warfare and so on. So the Chinese have had this agenda for a very long time. So we have to take it seriously. The question is, will they be able to sustain the growth that has led them to where they are today? Because right now the Chinese economy seems to be floundering. It seems to be under recession. The numbers that are coming out of China say that there's about 5 or 6% growth, but the actual figures may be 1 or 2% only, or even less than that, because you cannot really trust the Chinese numbers. So if that is the case, then the Chinese economy is stagnating, and there that could be actually a problem for the world, because it may make the Chinese Communist Party a little desperate, and they will try and grab whatever they can right now. So that is a possibility. But the Chinese have the agenda for sure to rule the entire world. So we have to take it very seriously, and we have to develop our own strength so that that doesn't happen. Right?
So, do you believe that China is still playing that divide and rule card in India?
Absolutely. It's always done that. It will always do that. No question about it. It is doing that, yes. Because, as you know,
Okay.
many Indian political parties have certain kinds of agreements, etc., with the Chinese, whether it's the Indian Communist Party or some other parties and so on. So, yeah, that divide and rule is very much there. They will keep on doing that. So we have to be on the alert, and we have to be aware of their agenda. Right?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Nice talking to you. Nice speaking to you. Bye. Okay, let us bring in Swati. Good evening.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Swati. Where are you from?
Sir, first of all, I would like to tell you that I am a science student, and in a million of years, I would have never thought that I would love history. History was one of the subjects that I hated the most during my school years. But for the past 1 year, just because of you and your podcast, I've fallen in love with history, and thank you so much, sir, for that.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
So,
So,
sir,
what's your
my
question?
question to you is that we have listened to it many times that in our epics, in our texts, many ashuddhiyas have crept in. There are certain additions that have been done to our epics, and just because now it is thousands of year old stories and itihas, and we don't know Sanskrit that much. So, sir, how can we decipher that this is an ashuddhi, this is an addition? Because many a times we hear that Uttar Ramayana is actually not a part of the original Valmiki Ramayana. So such type of ashuddhiyas, how can we decipher it on our own?
Uh, we cannot do it to the complete extent because we don't have the different editions and versions of these texts chronologically. So, let's say that it was written, just hypothetically, let's say the Ramayana was written 5,000 years ago, hypothetically. And then if we, I'm going to mute you. Okay, so hypothetically, let's say it was written 5,000, 6,000 years ago, and let's say we have all the editions of the Ramayana, edition 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In case we have that, then we can see what additions and what modifications were done, and in that case, we will be able to tell which is the original version. But unfortunately, we don't have that. Most of our ancient texts got burned in those Turkic invasions of India. So whatever little we have to treat it as a great treasure. And unfortunately, we will not be able to tell what changes, what modifications or deletions, if any, happened at what period in time. So unfortunately, what we have now is what we have, and we have to treat it as the sacred text. We do know that lots of changes have happened over time, because there are versions of the Ramayana in other countries, Southeast Asia, Thailand, Cambodia, Indonesia, Bali, etc., in which you have different versions of these stories. We have certain embellishments, we have certain new characters, small minor characters that are added to it. For instance, there is a version of the Ramayana in which there is this mermaid who meets Lord Hanuman during the passage to Sri Lanka, to Lanka, and he actually marries this mermaid and so on, which is not there in the original Ramayana in India. So this is an addition that has been done in another version of the Ramayana, and so on and so forth. So there are many such local versions of the Ramayana which have slightly different tales and all that. Unfortunately, there is no way of knowing which are the Ashuddhis, which are the additions, which is the actual original text. There is no way of knowing it, unfortunately. So what we have to do is we have to preserve all these different versions of the texts, and we have to regard all of them as the sacred text. That's the only thing we can do right now, right?
Versions of the texts. So, sir, thank you so much for your answer. And, sir, there's just one more suggestion that I have for your webinar. Many times you have told that India as a country needs a dharmic constitution. So, sir, if you can make a little bit of webinar, what will be the dharmic constitution, or what changes we can make in the present constitution to make it a little dharmic. So it will be a very helpful for all of us, I guess.
Thank you for the suggestion. Thank you so much. All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks
sir. Thank you
for
so
the
much.
question. Thank you. Bye. All right. Whom shall I bring in that I have not spoken to earlier? Let me bring in Prajwal. Hi. Good evening.
Yeah, sir. Thank you for giving me chance.
Very nice to meet you. Where are you from?
Sir, Nanded, Maharashtra.
Very nice. Okay. What's your question, sir?
So my question is, can anyone write research paper on history or any institutional background required for that? And how to
I
start it, sir, if yes?
So I don't think any institutional background is required to write a research paper in history. What you have to do is you need to have sufficient knowledge about the topic that you're writing about, and you need to know how to write a research paper. What are the what things are needed? You need to obviously be able to cite sources, original sources, and proper sources, and you need to be able to structure your argument and your paper properly. If you do that, if it is a high quality research, you can submit it to any reputed or official research journal, and you don't need to be affiliated with any institution for that. You can do it even if you're unaffiliated, even if you're an independent researcher, right? So as long as you know how to write a proper research paper, and as long as your research paper is high quality and it's original, you should have no issue in being able to get your work published in a research journal, right?
So actually, I belongs to Aryavashya community, but
Okay.
many people from South India they believe that they are not Hindus, they are Dravidian. So I really want to write something on that topic or do something on it.
That is great. That is great. So I think you should go ahead and do that. And as long as your argument is good, as long as the paper is well written and it has sufficient sources, etc., as required, then I don't think there should be any problem in you submitting and having a research paper on this particular subject published. Right. So it's great to see that you have this motivation to do that. So go ahead and do it. I would say do it.
Yeah, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Nice meeting you. Bye bye. Pranav Nair. Hello.
Hello, sir. Good evening. Am I audible, sir?
Good evening. Yes, you're audible. Yes.
Sir, I'm a huge fan of your work and how much information you are actually disseminating to the general audience. I'm from Kerala, and I have so many questions to you. I wish I had a podcast or something so I could ask everything. But I know I'll have to ask only one question. Uh, my question is, sir, even though I'm not so widely read in the Vedas and associated things, they talk about a substance called Soma, and this substance apparently was supposed to be ingested by the priest during rituals. And I'm wondering whether this substance is some kind of hallucinogen, or is it comparable to all these shamanistic rituals where they use stuff like ayahuasca and all in the South American jungles, and whether this actually produces some kind of altered state of consciousness which helps in maybe perceiving the world a little differently or in a more pacifistic way, which may help us to enlighten ourselves. What is your take on this? Whether such substances were used or whether they were not, whether they were like decried by the ancient Vedic community?
That's a very good question, Pranav. Very interesting question. Soma, what exactly is Soma? Unfortunately, today we have lost the identity of this herb or this plant or whatever it was. Now, if you look at the Vedas, there is a significant amount of references to the great Somaras. They call it Somaras. And the Soma is also associated with the moon. That's why they call Monday Somavar, right? Monday is the day of moon. In French, it's called lundi, which is the day of the lune, which is the moon. So in French, it is the moon day. In English, it is the moon day. And in Sanskrit, it is Somvar, and Som is again associated with the moon. That's very interesting. Now, Somaras is associated, is believed If you look at the depictions and the way it is described in the Vedas, it is said that the great warrior Indra, before going to battle, would drink lots of somaras because it gave him a lot of strength and energy and the vigor to fight in the battle. So that tells me that it's not a hallucinogenic compound or substance, because if you are intoxicated and you go to war, you're going to lose your head right there. Right. So that is a very interesting clue in the Vedas, in the Rig Veda, I believe. So it is something the warriors would drink before going to war because it gave them strength, energy, and vigor. Now, the question is, what is the identity of this particular plant? Is it one plant? Is it a mixture of plants? We are not quite sure. Now, these Parsis, the Persians, who are the descendants of our ancient ancestors, they also have something called a yasna, which is the same thing as the yagna, and they also drink homa. They call it homa, which we call soma, and the plant that they use in the homa ceremony is called the ephedra plant, which is kind of it is actually a banned substance in athletics because it is a performance enhancing substance. It kind of gives you some kind of performance kick. So it does seem to be in line with what is described in the Vedas, that you drink soma and you get more energy and strength and you can go and fight a war and actually win it. So the ephedra plant is a performance enhancing. It has some performance enhancing qualities. It is a banned substance in athletics and in competitions, and it is what the Iranians, the Parsis, have been using as their homa plant. Now, is it the original soma plant of our Vedas? We are not quite sure. Some researchers have said that it is the ephedra plant. Some people have said that uh, it is one of those mushrooms, those magic mushrooms kind of things, which could possibly be the soma plant. So there's a number of theories out there. Unfortunately, none of these theories has been proven conclusively. So at the end of the day, it is still a question that's still open, and we still haven't completely solved the mystery of what is the identity of the soma plant. But clearly there was something that did exist, and there was even a depiction of the process that was used to extract the soma rust. So you had to press the stalks of the plant and extract the soma rust, and then that's what you drank, and that's how you got the energy. So it's one of the big mysteries in our ancient history, and it has still not been solved. It is mostly Western researchers who have been trying to solve it. Indians obviously have been sleeping all this time, but I think hopefully something will change, and maybe we'll be able to figure out what it was. So that's a very interesting question. Thanks for asking this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Nice meeting you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, Sushant has been waiting very patiently. Let me bring in Sushant. Hi, Sushant.
Hello, sir. Again, this is my second time.
Oh, it is very nice.
My question is that even after the colonization done by Mughals, essentially means somehow we were colonized under the Mughals, right? So even though we were colonized against in the Mughal era, we were able to fight back and create our own independent empires, even though they were small or smaller of some sorts. So why weren't we able to do the same when the British colonized us?
Right, that's a very good question. So the Mughals were defeated conclusively by the Marathas. It started. I'm going to mute you because it's a lot of noise. But all right. So the Mughals were defeated by the Marathas, by the Maratha Empire. Eventually, the Maratha Empire was able to reclaim and free and liberate India from the Turkic occupation. The Maratha Empire went all the way up to the up to parts of Afghanistan, etc. So all of India was free. And unfortunately, because of the infighting between the Marathas and because of their because the succession plan went wrong and you had weaker leaders who came up, that's why the British were able to defeat the Marathas and eventually take over India and colonize India. So, and what the British did was what the Mughals did not do. They created these artificial famines. Every year, millions of Indians died in these artificial famines because the logic was that if the Indians are so weak that they are dying, if there is no food, then how will they fight? So that is one strategy the British used to create this large scale environment of starvation throughout India, which prevented Indians from fighting back. Still, Indians did fight back, like in 1857, in which we almost won the thing, But and after that, what the British did was that they changed the Indian education system. They imposed their colonial system on India. So slowly Indians started getting brainwashed, and they started looking upon the British as actually good people, as the superior race. And this the Indians started looking at the British culture as superior to Indian culture, and so on. All the education was imposed in the English language. Indians were brainwashed. Indians were portrayed as inferior. And then the British started this political movement called the Indian National Congress, in which British educated people were brought to the top, and they were portrayed as India's national independence leaders, even though they were actually delaying India's independence. So it is this very interesting, very well thought out, very well planned strategy of the British that ensured that their rule lasted this long. And that's why we had such poor leaders, and that's why we are still to a very large extent mentally colonized. So it was a very well crafted strategy of divide and rule and impose their foreign culture and make Indians ashamed of their own culture. That is why we are in the situation where we are today. So good question.
So yes, I have one more question. So
No, I'm sorry, only one question per person. Very sorry. Maybe next time,
about the
because I
books,
have to treat everybody
you
equally.
no,
I have to
about the
treat
books
everybody
you
equally.
mentioned. Okay, sorry, sir.
Sorry.
Sorry. One
Okay,
more
thank you so
question.
much for your question. Thank you. Thanks for your question. Bye. Okay, who all do we have? I can see a number of people waiting. Let me bring in Tanai. Hello.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm from Kolkata, and
Nice to
I
meet
have
you.
a question about geopolitics. Sir,
Yep.
how long do you think that China's bully and conquer policy is going to work in the geopolitical world? And sir, and with the ongoing crisis in China, such as the recent power crisis, uh, is it going to add any new tactic to its current playbook, or other things just going to remain the same?
Okay, good question. Very good question. So China's policy will not change. Their objectives are the same, and therefore their strategies and tactics will evolve according to the situation. But their objectives won't change. They want to become the superpower, the sole superpower in the world. They want to displace the US and make and essentially uh, become the sole superpower in the world. They want to see India fragmented and broken up. They want to absorb parts of India like Arunachal Pradesh, and so on. So their rise is going to be a non-peaceful rise, which the world now knows very well. Of course, like you mentioned, the Chinese economy does seem to be showing very strong signs of recession. It seems to be floundering, and therefore their tactics will evolve based on that, because they need money. They have risen to the position they are in right now because of their economic power. So they have pursued certain policies that gave them double digit growth year upon year for a very long time, and that's why their economic might has grown to the extent that it has today. And that is also the reason why they have been able to build a powerful military. Now that their economy seems to be under a recession, they will perhaps become desperate, and they will perhaps try to take over Taiwan very quickly, and maybe indulge in some other military misadventures. There is a possibility. So that is the state we are in right now. So based upon how things change, they will certainly, like you said, try to change their tactics and strategies. So if their economy doesn't grow the way they want it to grow, then they may become a little desperate, and they may try to grab whatever they can right now with the economic might that they still have. Perhaps the economy will shrink in the future. So that is a possibility. So it all depends. Things change, and your strategies and tactics have to adapt to deal with the changing geopolitical and global environment. So we are going to see changes, certainly. It is quite likely, it does look kind of quite likely that the Chinese economy is going to slow down. And that may
Okay,
actually be a bad sign for the world, right?
okay, sir. Sir, and do you think that China is trying to target the Digboy oil fields in Arunachal Pradesh for its military campaigns?
Okay, I'm supposed to take only one question per
Oh,
person. So
okay,
my
sir.
question is no. My question is no. My answer to that question is no.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you so much. Thank you for your question. Nice meeting
Thank you
you.
so much, sir, for
Thank
letting
you.
me ask. I'm a really big fan. I've been waiting for this question to be answered for a really long time.
Awesome.
And
Nice meeting you.
and
Thank
I
you. Thank
find
you.
no one more trustworthy than you to do it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Great honor for
Thank you,
me.
sir.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Bye bye. Hello, Rahul. Can you hear me? I can't hear you, sir. You're not audible. I cannot hear you. Very sorry. Okay, I will take you in next time. Thank you so much. Very sorry, I could not hear you. Okay, let's bring in somebody else. Who all can I see here? I will bring in Mr. Abhinay. Hello, good evening. Once again, I can't hear you. Sorry, can't hear you. Okay, next time. I'll bring in somebody else. Whom shall I bring in? Let me bring in Ujwal. I hope I can hear Ujwal. Hi, Ujwal. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. So,
Good evening.
I really admire your work. You're really a great person. Because of you, like several theories like Aryan Vision theory, which made up in our mind, we got logic and researched. And today we know that it's false. It's all Dravid nationalist, fault that they are dividing people. So my question is, like, today's Indian Navy as compared to the world's elitist naval forces is quite less in comparison to like United States or China. But in the past, like if we consider the Chanakya, he talked about the four kinds of ship, then the Cholas. But after the 13th century, the decline of the Cholas leadership, we saw dearth for like 4 5 centuries, and then in the Marathas we got the naval power on a rise. So while reading about the Marathas, I got to know about one of the elitist naval admirals who has been kind of erased from the Indian history, and his name was Kanhoji Angade. So sir, may you please
Yes.
shed some light on his achievements, the great Maratha admiral Kanhoji Angade?
Okay, so the thing is, see, I haven't studied Kanoji Angre's career in great detail. I'm certainly aware of the fact that he was one of the greatest naval warriors of in our entire history, and you could say that he's, in a way, the father of the Indian Navy, because it was during the Maratha era that, because of his achievements, the Maratha Navy was able to expand so much. It was able to defeat the Portuguese in a number of battles and various other forces. So that's what I can tell you, because I haven't read his career in great detail. That is a very specific niche topic. My interest is kind of global, so I will not be able to give you right now details of his exploits. I know that he was their greatest admiral. He is the father, or the greatest leader in the Maratha Navy. And if I certainly have read about him. If I recall that he had defeated the Portuguese in a number of battles. He had even inducted some Europeans as officers in the Maratha Navy.
Yes, sir.
In
So
order
yes,
to, yeah,
he inducted Dutch actually, and
Dutch, right?
sir, there's
Was
one. Yes, sir, and there was one more incident, like Portuguese and English navy combined together an attack, but still they failed twice to defeat him.
Yes, and what I recall was that his strategy and tactics were very innovative. He relied not on large ships but on smaller and more agile ships, faster ships, which were able to outmaneuver the European naval ships and all that. And that's why he was able to defeat them multiple times.
Uh,
And
and
it's very
even so
interesting
that
achievement.
even so that he captured the ship of the president of the Bombay presidency, so that HCS Algerine. So that's why I thought like it's very interesting to discuss about such a naval admiral who was like greater than the whole world's navy combined.
I absolutely agree. He's one of the greatest naval officers and greatest naval commanders of all time in the world. And it is really a tragedy that we are not recognizing such incredible heroes that we have had, such great leaders of our people and of our country. Even the Marathas, I mean, compared to the Cholas, etc., compared to the Cholas, the Chalukyas, etc., the Marathas have still got a little bit more exposure in our textbooks, and yet it is not
Yes,
sufficient.
sir.
The kind of The way the Marathas have been portrayed is rather insufficient. The portrayal is very insufficient, and people like Kanoji Angre, etc., don't even get a mention, which is a tragedy, which needs to change. And that's why I keep saying we need to revise and revisit our history textbooks and decontaminate our history. So it's a very interesting topic that you have brought forth. Thank you for bringing this up.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye. Okay, I will have to limit my next question to only one person because we are reaching the end of our thing of tonight's session. So I can see a number of people waiting. Only one will get the chance. I'm very sorry, very sorry. Let me bring in Jignesh. Hi
Uh,
Jignesh. Good evening.
Hello, sir. I have been a huge fan of you. I have been following your Beer Biceps podcast for like so many times. I listened them twice, first on YouTube and then on Spotify. So I'm from Navi Mumbai, India, and my question is a little like a personal, but many of my students of my age have this question. So I'm in my like final year of engineering, and I need to know that whether if I go out and come back again for studying purpose, then it will like benefit or like harm for my country. Like, will it be good for brain drain or it will be bad? Like, if I study outside, gain some more knowledge, and then come back and be prosperous in terms of economy rather than like staying here.
Yes, I get it. Very good question. What I would say is that you should do right now you're very young. Right now, what you should do is you should do what is best for you and your personal career. So go wherever you need to go. If you have to go abroad, get your education there. I would say that in the next 10, 20 years, build a career, whether it's in India, whether it's abroad, wherever you can, and become the best version of yourself that you possibly can be. Try and achieve your full potential, and later on in life, maybe after your 30s or 40s, at that point in time, maybe if you're abroad, maybe you can come back to India and contribute something to the country. But right now you have to focus only on yourself, only on your personal growth, because unless you grow up into somebody who is who can contribute some genuine value to the country, there's no point. So right now, do whatever is best for yourself. And later, when you have achieved something of significance, then you can think of contributing to the country. So that is the simple strategy every student in the country needs to follow. Right now, what is best for yourself.
Yeah, sir.
Correct?
So I like a small quote that you said in the podcast. Like for years, I have been trying to go abroad, but the quote that you said that when a structure is about the crumble, the rats are the first to leave the structure. So that's what made me think whether to like stay in India and do something good for my country, rather than glorifying the West. Yeah. So thank
No,
you,
no,
sir,
do
for.
whatever is best for you right now. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
sir. Yeah, sir. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much for the question. Thanks. Nice meeting you. Okay, my friends, I am very sorry. I'm going to have to wrap it up over here. I know many of you are waiting here. I'm very sorry. Hopefully next time. And thank you to all the viewers. Thank you to all of you who joined. Thank you for all the questions. And I will keep on doing this. This is great fun. And I hope to meet each one of you in the future. And hopefully someday we'll even meet in person. So the great session, wonderful. Thank you so much. And I will see you again next week. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Have a good day. Until next time, bye.